She thought beauty would bring her happiness, but it became a prison she couldn't escape. Lila Morgan stood in the middle of the crowded assembly hall at Riverwood Academy, her head bowed, her hands trembling, and her self-esteem crumbling beneath the weight of countless mocking eyes. The laughter around her wasn't just noise, it was sharp, cruel, like knives slicing through her heart. Just minutes earlier, she had raised her hand, desperately trying to catch the head teacher's attention. She needed to excuse herself, her weak bladder warning her of an impending embarrassment. But the head teacher ignored her, his gaze sweeping over her, as though she didn't exist. After all, who cared about the overweight, awkward girl in the corner? And then it happened. A warm, humiliating sensation spread down Lila's legs. Her worst fear had come true. She had wet herself in front of the entire school. At first, there was a tense, stunned silence. But then the boys in the back began to snicker, and the girls whispered behind their hands. A wave of cruel laughter erupted, crashing over her like a tidal wave. Lila's cheeks burned with shame, her vision blurred with tears, and the ground beneath her seemed to vanish. She ran. Her feet pounded against the tiled hallway as she fled, the laughter still echoing in her ears, louder and louder, until it was all she could hear. Lila's chest tightened, her breath came in sharp, panicked gasps, and her vision blurred as tears streamed down her face. She burst into an empty classroom, slamming the door behind her. Her legs gave way beneath her, and she collapsed into a desk, burying her face in her trembling hands. The sobs came hard and fast, each one tearing through her like a storm. "Why me?" she whispered, her voice muffled by her hands. "Why did I have to be born like this?" This wasn't the first time life had been cruel to Lila. She had always been different, overweight, shy, and plagued by a weak bladder, a condition that had been a source of endless humiliation for her since childhood. But this was the worst. This was a nightmare come true. The door creaked open, and Lila's heart froze. She hurriedly wiped her tears, trying to compose herself, but it was too late. Ms. Evelyn Carter, her literature teacher, stood in the doorway, her gentle eyes filled with concern. "Lila?" Miss Carter's voice was soft, a soothing balm in the midst of Lila's storm. "Are you all right, dear?" Lila shook her head, biting her lip to keep from sobbing again. But Ms. Carter stepped forward, pulled a chair beside her, and handed her a clean, soft handkerchief. "Don't worry about them, sweetheart," she whispered. "They're the ones who should be ashamed, not you." Lila's fingers tightened around the handkerchief. Miss Carter had always been different. While other teachers saw Lila as a quiet, awkward student, Miss Carter saw something more, a bright mind, a kind heart. But how could Lila believe that when all she saw in the mirror was someone unworthy? I can't take it anymore," Lila choked out, her voice thick with tears. "They hate me. I'm nothing but a joke to them." "That's not true," Miss Carter replied firmly. "You are not a joke. You are intelligent, kind, and capable of so much more than they could ever imagine." Lila looked up, her tear-filled eyes meeting Miss Carter's warm, steady gaze. But I'm ugly. I'm fat. I'm nothing. Stop that right now." Miss Carter's voice took on a gentle but firm tone. "Beauty is so much more than what you see in the mirror, Lila. And I'll prove it to you." "Prove it?" Lila whispered, confused. "I've nominated you to compete in the school's end-of-year pageant," Miss Carter announced, a proud smile lighting up her face. Lila's mouth fell open. "Me? In the pageant?" But that's for the popular girls, the beautiful girls." Miss Carter chuckled softly. "Who says you're not one of them?" The words felt like a warm blanket wrapped around Lila's cold, aching heart. No one had ever spoken to her this way. No one had ever told her she was anything but a burden, a joke. "But they'll laugh at me," Lila whispered, her voice still trembling. "Let them laugh," Miss Carter replied, her eyes sparkling with determination. "And then watch their laughter fade when they see the strength, intelligence, and kindness that you bring to that stage. A flicker of hope ignited in Lila's chest, small and fragile, but there. Could she really stand on that stage? Could she face all those cruel, judgmental eyes and show them something more? For the first time in what felt like forever, Lila allowed herself a small, hesitant smile. "Thank you, Miss Carter," she whispered, clutching the handkerchief as though it were a lifeline. "Thank me by believing in yourself, Mrs. Carter whispered, gently patting Lila's shoulder. "Now, dry those tears. The world is a lot less scary when you face it with a little courage." Lila nodded, and as Ms. Carter stood to leave, a quiet determination began to take root in her heart. Maybe, just maybe, she could be something more than the ugly, forgotten girl in the corner. But as she stepped out of the empty classroom and walked down the hallway, Lila's smile began to fade. She saw the lingering stares of the other students, the whispers that followed her like shadows. Cruel faces, mocking smiles, they were everywhere. Could she really change their minds? Could she change how they saw her? Or was she only setting herself up for even greater humiliation? The doubt gnawed at her, but Ms. Carter's words echoed in her mind. Beauty is so much more than what you see in the mirror. Maybe, just maybe, it was time for her to find out. Lila Morgan walked through the crowded hallways of Riverwood Academy the next morning, her shoulders hunched, her gaze fixed on the floor. Whispers followed her like a dark cloud, cruel giggles and mocking smiles spreading like wildfire. She didn't have to hear every word to know what they were saying. "Did you see her yesterday? What a disaster. I can't believe she even showed her face again. Maybe she'll wet herself again today." Her heart pounded painfully against her ribs. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the walls and become invisible. But life was never that kind. She had to keep walking, one trembling step at a time, praying that the hallway would end before her courage did. "Lila!" A warm, familiar voice broke through the storm of whispers. Lila looked up, her eyes meeting the gentle gaze of Ms. Evelyn Carter. The teacher smiled, waving her over. For a brief moment, Lila hesitated, but Ms. Carter's kind expression was a lifeline in the sea of cruelty. Lila quickened her pace, her heart calming just slightly as she reached Mrs. Carter's side. "Good morning, Lila," Ms. Carter greeted, her voice soothing. "How are you feeling today?" Lila's gaze dropped again. "Not great, Ms. Carter." They won't stop laughing." Ms. Carter's expression softened. "Ignore them, sweetheart. Their laughter says more about them than it does about you." "But it hurts." Lila's voice was a whisper, thick with emotion. "I don't understand why they hate me so much. I never did anything to them. Sometimes people lash out because of their own insecurities," Ms. Carter explained, gently guiding Lila towards an empty bench in the quiet garden outside the school. "But you must never let their words define you." Lila's hands twisted nervously in her lap. "But how can I not? Every time I walk into a room, I can feel them staring at me. I can hear them laughing." Ms. Carter leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. "Then give them something else to look at, something else to talk about." Lila's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I meant what I said yesterday, Lila," Ms. Carter continued, her voice growing firmer. "I've nominated you for the school's end-of-year pageant." "Me?" Lila's voice was a mix of shock and disbelief. But I don't belong on that stage. That's for the popular girls, the beautiful girls." Mrs. Carter smiled, a gentle but determined smile. "Who says you're not one of them?" Lila shook her head. I'm nothing like them. I'm not beautiful, I'm not confident, I can't even look at myself in the mirror without feeling ashamed." Mrs. Carter reached out, placing a comforting hand on Lila's. "Beauty is not just about what you see in the mirror, Lila. It is about who you are, how you treat others, and how you carry yourself. You are kind, intelligent, and strong, and that makes you beautiful." "But they won't see that," Lila whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "Then show them," Miss Carter replied, her voice gentle but firm. "Stand on that stage, not to prove them wrong, but to show yourself who you truly are." Lila stared at her teacher, a mix of fear and longing swirling inside her. Could she really do it? Could she really stand before the entire school, the same school that had laughed at her, shamed her, and show them something different? I don't know if I can," Lila whispered, her voice barely audible. "Courage isn't about being fearless, Lila," Miss Carter said, her hand gently squeezing Lila's. "It's about facing your fears, even when your heart is pounding, even when your hands are shaking." Lila's gaze fell to her trembling fingers. She was afraid, she was terrified. But beneath that fear, a tiny spark began to flicker, a whisper of a dream she had never dared to speak aloud. What would I even do on stage?" Lila asked, trying to imagine herself in the spotlight. "Anything you want," Miss Carter smiled. "You could sing, recite poetry, even share a story. What matters is that you stand tall, that you show them the real you." Lila thought of the poetry books she loved, the stories that had always been her escape from the cruelty of reality. Could she do that? Could she stand in front of everyone and share something she loved, something that made her feel alive? I think I want to read a poem," Lila whispered, almost afraid of her own voice. Miss Carter's smile widened. "Then that's exactly what you'll do." For the first time in what felt like forever, Lila felt a small, fragile sense of hope bloom in her chest. It was a whisper of courage, but it was there. "Will you help me practice?" she asked, her voice tinged with both fear and determination. "Of course I will," Miss Carter replied, her voice warm and reassuring. "We'll choose the perfect poem, and I'll help you every step of the way." Lila nodded, her fingers finally steadying. "Thank you, Miss Carter. Thank you for believing in me." "Believe in yourself, Lila," Miss Carter whispered. "That's all I'm doing, reminding you of what's always been inside you." The school bell rang, and the garden filled with the distant noise of students heading to class, but Lila felt a little lighter as she stood up, following Miss Carter back inside. The stairs were still there. The whispers hadn't vanished, but they seemed quieter, their sting a little less sharp. She had a chance to be more than just the fat girl they mocked. A chance to stand on that stage not as a joke, but as someone with a voice, with a purpose. That night, as she sat in her small bedroom, surrounded by her worn books and fading posters, Lila took a deep breath and opened one of her favorite poetry collections. Her fingers traced the words and she whispered them softly, letting their rhythm calm her heart. She could do this. She had to, because for once, she wasn't just running away from her fears, she was running towards something she never thought she deserved. Hope. The following week, Lila Morgan tried to focus on her classes at Riverwood Academy, but her thoughts kept drifting to the pageant. Each time she pictured herself on that stage, her heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. Could she really do this? Could she stand before the entire school, the same students who mocked her, and show them another side of herself? But the whispers in the hallway were relentless. "Did you hear? Lila's entering the pageant." What a joke. She'll embarrass herself again. Maybe she'll cry on stage this time. Lila tried to ignore them, clutching her books tightly as she walked past, her head down. Yet the cruel words found their way into her heart, like thorns piercing through the fragile hope Miss Carter had given her. After school, Lila hurried down the familiar path that led to her small neighborhood. It was a quiet, tree-lined street where the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. But today, even the sunlight couldn't lift the heavy cloud of doubt hanging over her. As she turned the corner, she saw her the old woman who always sat near the weathered brick wall at the edge of the alley. Her tangled grey hair spilled over her thin shoulders, and her wrinkled hands rested on her knees. Most of the other students walked by without a second glance, but Lila never did. Every day, she stopped to offer the woman a small piece of bread from her lunch, a simple act of kindness that had become a quiet routine. But today, Lila hesitated. Her own troubles felt so overwhelming, she wondered if she even had the strength to offer a smile. But then she saw the woman's tired eyes, her thin frame wrapped in a tattered shawl, and Lila's heart softened. "Here," Lila whispered, reaching into her bag and handing the woman a fresh slice of bread. I hope you're doing okay." The woman's eyes, distant and clouded, seemed to focus for a moment. She took the bread, but her thin lips curled into a faint smile. "Thank you, child. You always share with me." It's nothing," Lila murmured, already turning to leave, the weight of her own worries pressing down on her. "Why do you cry, my dear?" The woman's voice, raspy but steady, caught Lila off guard. Lila stopped, turning back. I'm not crying." But even as she spoke, her vision blurred with tears. A lump rose in her throat, and before she could stop herself, the words came tumbling out. "They all hate me. They laugh at me. They call me ugly. I just don't understand why." The old woman's gaze softened. "People can be cruel, child, but their words do not define you." Lila wiped her eyes, her chest tightening. "But they do. They do, when that's all you hear." Silence hung between them for a moment, and then the woman leaned forward, her voice low and gentle. "Would you like to change it? Would you like to see the world through a different mirror?" Lila frowned, confusion mixing with her sadness. "What do you mean?" The woman's smile grew, a strange, almost mystical light dancing in her eyes. "Make a wish, child." "Any wish, and I will grant it." Lila's heart skipped a beat. Was this a joke? A strange game meant to distract her? Or was the woman simply speaking from the depths of her wandering mind? But something about the woman's gaze, so clear, so steady, made Lila hesitate. I don't understand," Lila whispered, a nervous laugh escaping her. You can grant wishes?" "I can grant one," the woman replied. "And because you have shown me kindness when others have not, I will give you this gift." Lila's mind raced. Wishes were for fairy tales, for storybooks, not for real life. And yet, a tiny spark of hope, of desperate longing flared inside her. I wish." Her voice trembled, her heart pounding against her ribs. "I wish I could be beautiful, the most beautiful girl in the world." The old woman's expression didn't change, but her eyes seemed to glow with a gentle light. "Are you sure, child?" "Beauty is a gift, but it can also be a burden." Lila hesitated. Did she truly want this? Would it change anything? But then she thought of the laughter, the whispers, the endless humiliation. "Yes," she whispered, her voice firmer now. "That's my wish." The woman nodded slowly. "Then it is granted. But remember this, you will have 336 hours. After that, the gift will end." 336 hours? Lila's brow furrowed. "But that's only 2 weeks." "Yes," the woman replied, her voice almost a whisper. "Use them wisely, child." Lila stared at her, the woman's words echoing in her mind. This was ridiculous, it had to be. Wishes weren't real. This was just the rambling of a lonely, forgotten woman. "Thank you, I guess," Lila mumbled, trying to force a polite smile. "I should get home now, please. Please stay warm tonight." The woman's faint smile lingered as Lila turned and walked away, shaking her head. What a strange encounter. For a moment, it had felt almost magical, but now it just seemed like a dream, a sad, impossible dream. That night, Lila fell asleep still thinking about the woman's words. 336 hours. How silly. How childish. And yet, how wonderful it would be if it were true. The next morning, Lila awoke to the soft glow of sunlight filtering through her curtains. She yawned, rubbed her eyes, and pulled herself out of bed. But something felt different. Her body felt lighter, her skin warm and smooth. She stood up, stretching, and then caught sight of her reflection in the mirror. Her breath caught in her throat. The girl staring back at her was a stranger, but a beautiful one. Her dull, frizzy hair had transformed into soft, silky waves that shimmered like dark gold. Her blemished skin was now flawless, radiant. Her eyes, once tired and sad, were bright and vibrant. "No," she whispered, stumbling backward. This can't be." But the reflection didn't change. It was her, and yet it wasn't. Panic surged in her chest. "This isn't real. It's a dream." But the woman's words echoed in her mind. 336 hours. Use them wisely. Lila's legs gave way, and she sat on the edge of her bed, her heart racing. It was impossible. It was magic. It was everything she had wished for. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. What would she do? Who would she become? Would anyone recognize her? Slowly, a small, cautious smile spread across her lips. For the first time in her life, she had a chance to be seen, truly seen. But was this a gift or a trap? Lila Morgan's heart raced as she stared at the mirror, her own reflection now a breathtaking stranger. Her once frizzy hair now flowed in soft, shimmering waves. Her blemished, pale skin had transformed into a flawless, radiant complexion. Her once sad, weary eyes were now a striking, vibrant shade of emerald, framed by thick, dark lashes. She was beautiful, impossibly, unbelievably beautiful. "It's real," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The wish. It's real." The old woman's words echoed in her mind. 336 hours. Use them wisely. 1,000 thoughts raced through Lila's mind. What should she do? Should she go to school? Would anyone recognize her? Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but then another emotion surged forward, determination. "No," she whispered, wiping the fear from her eyes. "They won't recognize me, and they don't deserve to." An idea began to take shape. She wouldn't be Lila Morgan, not anymore. Not while she had this gift. A new name, a new identity, a new chance. She looked at her reflection, a confident smile slowly spreading across her perfect lips. "Jessie," she whispered to herself. "Jessie Morgan." Jessie spent the next few hours carefully choosing her clothes, a simple but elegant blouse, a pair of dark jeans that hugged her now perfect figure, and a soft pastel scarf that highlighted her striking eyes. Her hands trembled with excitement, but her heart beat steady and strong. No one would recognize her. No one would dare mock her now. When she stepped into Riverwood Academy that morning, a hush fell over the hallway. Heads turned, conversations stopped, and all eyes locked onto her. Boys stared, their mouths slightly open, while the girls exchanged wide-eyed glances of envy and awe. "Who is she?" one boy whispered. "I've never seen her before," another murmured. Jessie walked with quiet confidence, her steps light but steady, her gaze forward. Inside, her heart was racing, but she kept her expression calm, almost indifferent. She wasn't Lila Morgan, she was someone new, someone they couldn't touch. As she passed the main hallway, she saw them Heather Blake and her group of perfect popular girls. The same girls who had mocked her, laughed at her, treated her like dirt. Heather's gaze landed on Jessie, and for a moment, her confident smile faltered. But then Heather's curiosity turned into something else, admiration. She stepped forward, flashing a bright, almost too perfect smile. "Hi, I'm Heather." "Are you new here?" Jessie smiled back, a subtle, almost amused smile. "Yes, my name is Jessie." Heather's eyes lit up. Well, welcome, Jessie. You should totally sit with us at lunch. I mean, with your looks, you'll fit right in. Jessie's smile widened. Thank you. I might just do that. Heather exchanged glances with her friends, clearly pleased with herself. The other girls giggled, already whispering about how gorgeous the new girl was. Jessie watched them carefully, her gaze calm but sharp. Did they really think she was just another pretty face they could collect like a trophy? But Jessie had her own plan. And it began with Heather. Throughout the day, Jessie's presence disrupted the entire school. Boys tripped over themselves, trying to get her attention. Teachers complimented her manners, and even the staff in the cafeteria seemed eager to serve her. It was as though her beauty cast a spell on everyone around her. But for Jessie, it was more than just attention. It was power. When lunchtime arrived, she walked confidently to Heather's table. Heather's friends eagerly made space for her, each one trying to be the first to start a conversation. "You must be a model," one girl gushed. "You're so perfect." Jessie laughed lightly, a sound that seemed to mesmerize them. "Not yet," she replied, "but who knows?" Heather leaned in, her smile wide, but her eyes calculating. "So, where did you transfer from, Jessie?" "Just a small private school," Jessie answered smoothly, carefully maintaining her mysterious image. "I wanted a change of scenery." "Well, you definitely picked the right place," Heather grinned. "We're the most popular girls here. Stick with us, and you'll have the best year of your life." Jessie smiled back, but her mind was already racing. Ipula. They thought they were the queens of the school? Not for long. As the days passed, Jessie became the center of attention at Riverwood Academy. Heather proudly introduced her as her new best friend, but Jessie's eyes were always watching, studying. She saw how Heather treated others, the way she whispered cruel comments, the way she smiled sweetly while stabbing people in the back. But Heather's cruelty would be her own downfall, and Jessie was going to make sure of it. Her opportunity came sooner than she expected. The school's end-of-year pageant, the same one Mrs. Carter had nominated Lila for, was approaching. Heather was, of course, the favorite to win. She was the queen of the school, the one everyone expected to take the crown. But not anymore. One afternoon, as the contestants practiced on stage, Jessie watched from the shadows. Heather was in the spotlight, rehearsing her routine, her voice filled with forced sweetness, her smile rehearsed and empty. "You think you're untouchable, don't you?" Jessie whispered, her gaze cold and calculating. When Heather stepped off the stage, Jessie approached the arts teacher. "Excuse me, Miss Lynn," she said, her voice soft and polite. "I heard there might be a last-minute opening for the pageant. Would it be possible for me to join?" Lynn looked up, her eyes widening as she took in Jessie's perfect features. "Of course, dear. I'm sure the audience would love to see you perform." Heather's eyes narrowed from across the room. "Jessie, you're joining the pageant?" Jessie smiled, her expression innocent. "Yes, I thought it could be fun." "Fun," Heather repeated, her smile faltering. "Well, good luck." "Thank you," Jessie replied, her voice sweet. But as Heather turned away, Jessie's smile vanished, her gaze cold. This was just the beginning. Jessie spent the next few days perfecting her routine, her confidence growing with every step. She saw the looks of admiration, the whispers of awe. Heather tried to maintain her status, but her frustration grew with each passing day. It was clear she was no longer the center of attention, but Jessie wasn't just satisfied with being popular. She wanted more. During rehearsals, she overheard Heather boasting about her sure win, mentioning a cheat sheet with the judges' questions and answers. A dangerous smile played on Jessie's lips. The day of the pageant arrived. Backstage, the girls adjusted their gowns and fixed their hair. Heather strutted around, her confidence forced, but Jessie simply watched, a quiet storm behind her serene smile. When Heather's turn came, she stepped onto the stage, her voice sweet, her smile dazzling. But as the questions began, her confidence wavered. The cheat sheet she had memorized didn't match the questions being asked, and Jessie knew why. She had made sure the questions were switched. As Heather stuttered, her smile cracking, the audience began to whisper. Panic filled her eyes. Jessie stood in the wings, her gaze cold, her smile unwavering. It was her turn next. She stepped onto the stage, radiant, poised, and fearless. Her voice was calm, her answers confident, and as the applause filled the hall, Jessie's heart raced with victory. Heather was nothing now. And Jessie, the girl they never noticed, the girl they mocked, was everything. The applause roared in Jessie's ears as she stood center stage, her radiant smile never faltering. Flashbulbs flashed like fireworks, and the shimmering crown on her head sparkled under the bright lights. Riverwood Academy's end-of-year pageant had a new queen, and she was perfection itself. Jessie, once known as Lila Morgan, had done it. She had become the girl everyone admired, the girl everyone wanted to be. Yet as she stood there, waving to the cheering crowd, a strange emptiness gnawed at her chest. "Smile, Jessie," the pageant coordinator whispered, waving from the side of the stage. Jessie's smile widened, her hand lifting in a graceful wave. But it felt like a mask, a beautiful, flawless mask, hiding a hollow void underneath. As the ceremony ended, the contestants flooded backstage, their voices a cacophony of excitement and chatter. Jessie was surrounded by congratulatory hugs and sparkling smiles, but her gaze kept wandering, searching for something, anything to fill the ache she couldn't quite name. "Jessie, you were amazing," one of the girls gushed, her eyes sparkling with envy. "I knew you'd win." "Thank you," Jessie replied, her voice warm and melodic, but her heart remained cold. Heather Blake stood at the far end of the dressing room, her face pale, her makeup smudged from the tears she had tried to hide. She had been the school's queen bee, the girl everyone adored until Jessie arrived. Now she was just another girl in the background, overshadowed, forgotten. Jessie watched as Heather's friends slowly drifted away, their eager eyes now glued to the new queen. A tiny, cruel smile tugged at the corner of Jessie's lips. This was what she had wanted, wasn't it? To make them feel the way they had made her feel, to see them crumble under the same weight of humiliation. "Jessie!" Ryan's voice broke through the crowd, and Jessie turned to see him pushing his way through, his handsome face lit with admiration. "You were incredible." Ryan Collins, Heather's ex-boyfriend, the boy who never even looked at Lila Morgan, now stood before her with a bouquet of roses, his smile dazzling. I just had to tell you that I've never seen anyone like you." Jessie's smile returned, a perfect, practiced smile. "Thank you, Ryan. Would you like to go celebrate?" "Just you and me?" he asked, his voice hopeful, almost desperate. Jessie glanced over his shoulder where Heather stood, her tear-filled eyes locked onto them. A surge of satisfaction washed over Jessie. "Sure, Ryan," she replied, letting him take her hand. They left the school together, Ryan talking excitedly about how amazing she was, how he had never met anyone like her, but his words were just noise. Jessie's gaze drifted to the glittering night sky, the moon glowing softly against the darkness. "Are you okay?" Ryan's voice pulled her back. You're really quiet." "I'm fine," Jessie replied, her voice smooth, flawless. "Just thinking." They walked along the quiet street, Ryan rambling on about how lucky he was, how everyone was jealous of him. But with each step, Jessie's heart felt heavier. They ended up at a small cafe, and Ryan ordered for both of them without asking her preference. Jessie smiled, laughed at his jokes, played the perfect part. But inside, the emptiness only grew. "Jessie, you're amazing," Ryan whispered, reaching across the table to take her hand. "You're everything I've ever wanted." But Jessie's gaze drifted to the window, where her own reflection stared back at her perfect, beautiful, and yet so distant. I should go, she whispered, pulling her hand away. What? But we're just getting started. Ryan's smile faltered. I'm tired, Jessie lied, forcing a polite smile. Thank you, Ryan. This was nice. She left him sitting there, his confused expression burning in her mind. As she walked down the empty street, the cold night air wrapped around her like a shroud. Her heels clicked against the pavement, the only sound in the stillness. Her phone buzzed messages from the other girls, from boys she didn't even know, all singing her praises, all wanting to be around her. Jessie stopped, staring at the glowing screen. For so long, she had wanted this to be adored, to be envied, to be seen. And now she had it. But why did it feel so empty? She walked until she reached the small alleyway near her neighborhood, the same alley where she had always shared bread with the old woman. But the spot was empty. The old woman was gone. A chill ran down Jessie's spine. 336 hours, she whispered, the words like a shadow in her mind. Was her time running out? Would she lose this beauty? Would she become Lila again? But another voice whispered in her heart, would that be so terrible? Who are you? She whispered to her own reflection in the dark window of a closed shop. Who are you really? The next day at school, Jessie was surrounded by admiration, but her smile felt heavier with each passing moment. Ryan hung around her, trying to be the perfect boyfriend, but his words were just noise. Heather's glare followed her everywhere, a bitter reminder of how the tables had turned. But it didn't feel like victory anymore. It felt like a game she didn't even want to play. In literature class, Miss Carter called on Jessie, or rather, on Lila. But the name didn't register. Jessie looked up, her flawless face masking the turmoil beneath. Jessie? Miss Carter repeated, her kind eyes studying the girl she didn't recognize. Would you read the next passage? Jessie nodded, her voice steady, perfect. But the words felt empty, just sounds filling the silence. Ms. Carter's gaze lingered, a hint of confusion in her warm smile. After class, Jessie tried to slip out, but Ms. Carter stopped her. Jessie, may I speak with you for a moment? Jessie's heart skipped a beat. Of course. Ms. Carter studied her, her gentle smile unwavering. You remind me of someone, a student I know. A wonderful, kind girl with a brilliant mind. Jessie's breath caught. Did she know? Could she see through the mask? I don't know what you mean, Jessie replied, forcing a laugh. I suppose not, Miss Carter said, her voice soft. But remember, beauty is not just what the world sees. It's who you are when no one's watching. Jessie forced another smile, but inside, the void only deepened. She walked away, her perfect image reflected in every glass door she passed, but each reflection felt like a stranger staring back at her. As she walked alone that evening, the cold wind biting at her flawless skin, Jessie whispered to herself, Who am I? Am I Jessie, or am I still Lila? But there was no answer, just the empty echo of her own question. Jessie stood in front of the mirror, staring at the flawless reflection that had once filled her with joy and power. But now, it felt like a prison. The face looking back at her was beautiful, but it wasn't hers. It was a mask that had brought her attention, admiration, even love, but none of it felt real. Her phone buzzed, another message from Ryan, another reminder of the empty adoration that surrounded her. His words were sweet, his compliments endless, but they washed over her like meaningless noise. Did he even know who she was? Did anyone? Her gaze shifted to the clock on the wall. 336 hours. The old woman's words echoed in her mind like a distant warning. Her time was running out. But for what? to become her old self again. Or to lose everything she had gained. Or maybe to finally remember who she really was. Her thoughts were interrupted by a loud, sudden knock on her door. She opened it to find her mother, worry etched in her face. Lila, there's someone here to see you." Lila's heart raced. Who could it be? Ryan. Another admirer. But when she stepped out into the small living room, she saw Heather Blake, the girl she had once feared, the girl she had humiliated. Heather's eyes were red, her face pale and streaked with tears.
Jessie, please, I need to talk to you." Jessie's heart pounded in her chest. What was she doing here? Was this a trap?
But the pain in Heather's voice was unmistakable. "What do you want?" Jessie asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Heather stepped forward, her hands wringing nervously. I don't know where else to go. They suspended me. My dad, he's in the hospital."
He collapsed when he heard everything. Jessie's heart twisted. "Your dad is in the hospital?" Heather nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "He always wanted me to be perfect, to be the best. And I messed everything up. I lied, I cheated, and now he's sick because of me." A cold wave of guilt washed over Jessie. This was exactly what she had wanted, wasn't it? To make Heather suffer, to take everything from her. But now, seeing the broken girl standing before her, the emptiness in Jessie's chest grew unbearable. "I'm sorry," Jessie whispered, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Heather's tear-filled eyes widened. You're sorry?" "Yes," Jessie whispered, her voice trembling. I wanted to hurt you. I thought it would make me feel better. But it didn't. It just made everything worse." Heather shook her head, disbelief mingling with her sorrow. "But why? Why would you do this to me?" Because you did it to me first," Jessie Lila admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You mocked me. You humiliated me. You made me feel like nothing." Heather stared at her, shock washing over her face. "Lila? You're Lila Morgan?" "Jessie, no." Lila nodded, tears welling in her own eyes. I wished to be beautiful. I thought it would make everything better. I thought it would make me happy, but it didn't." Heather's shoulders slumped, her expression shifting from shock to sorrow. I didn't know. I never thought I'd hurt someone that much." Lila's tears fell freely now. "I hated you, Heather. I wanted to destroy you, but all I did was destroy myself." Heather stepped forward, a hesitant, trembling smile breaking through her tears. "I guess we both messed up, didn't we?" Lila laughed, a sad, shaky laugh. "Yeah, I guess we did." For a moment, the two girls stood in silence, their pain and regret hanging between them like a heavy fog. But then Heather reached out, wrapping her arms around Lila in a tight, desperate hug. Lila's arms wrapped around her in return, and they both cried, letting go of the anger, the envy, the bitterness. "I'm sorry," Heather whispered again, "for everything." "Me too," Lila replied, her voice muffled against Heather's shoulder. After a long, tearful embrace, Lila pulled back. "Your dad, can I come with you? To the hospital?" Heather's eyes brightened with a faint, hopeful spark. You do that?" Lila smiled, her heart feeling a little lighter. "Yes, I want to help." Together, they made their way to the hospital. The sterile white halls, the beeping monitors, the quiet whispers of nurses. It was a world of anxiety and fear. But Lila stayed by Heather's side, offering quiet comfort. When they entered the room, Heather's father lay pale and weak,
an oxygen mask resting on his face. His eyes opened slowly, and when he saw Heather, a faint smile appeared. "Heather, my girl. Daddy, I'm so sorry," Heather whispered, rushing to his side, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry for everything." His weak hand reached for hers, squeezing gently. "You're my daughter, no matter what." Lila stood quietly at the door, her heart aching with both guilt and longing. She had envied Heather for so long, but now she saw a girl who was just as lost, just as broken as she was. After a while, Heather's father fell asleep, and the two girls sat together in the quiet hospital corridor. "Thank you," Heather whispered, leaning her head against Lila's shoulder. "For being here." Lila smiled, a soft, genuine smile. "We both needed someone." As the sun set outside, painting the sky in warm shades of pink and orange, Lila's phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. A message she ignored. Sitting here with Heather, in the quiet stillness of the hospital, she felt more alive, more real than she had in weeks. The mask of perfection she had worn as Jessie felt like a distant memory, a shadow of someone she didn't want to be anymore. "Do you think," Heather whispered, her voice soft, "do you think we could, be friends?" Lila's smile widened. "I'd like that." They laughed, a gentle, relieved laughter. And in that moment, Lila felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, peace. When they finally left the hospital, Lila paused outside, staring at the fading sunlight. Her time was running out. The beauty she had wished for it was only temporary, but maybe that didn't matter anymore. Because for the first time, she didn't need it. She didn't need the perfect face, the envious stares, or the hollow admiration. She just needed to be Lila, the real Lila. And maybe that was enough. Lila Morgan stood alone on the quiet, tree-lined street where she had first met the old woman, the woman who had given her everything she thought she wanted. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long golden shadows, and the cool breeze rustled the leaves overhead. But the old woman's spot was empty. "Please, please be here," Lila whispered, her voice tinged with desperation. She had spent the entire day searching for her down every familiar alley, near the small bakery, by the park where the autumn leaves painted the ground in shades of amber and red. But old Marigold was nowhere to be found. "Where are you?" Lila's voice cracked, a tear slipping down her cheek. A part of her wanted to turn back, to cling to the beautiful face that had given her everything, the admiration, the popularity, the love she had once dreamed of. But that love was a lie, a reflection of a mask she no longer wanted to wear. "I need to find her," Lila whispered. "I need to make this right." Just as she turned to leave, a faint, familiar voice echoed from the shadows. "Looking for me, my child." Lila's heart leapt, and she spun around to see the frail, hunched figure of old Marigold emerging from the darkness. Her graying hair hung in wild, tangled waves, her wise eyes twinkling with that same mysterious light. I've been looking everywhere for you," Lila cried, rushing forward. "Please, I need to talk to you." The old woman smiled, a knowing smile. "Did you enjoy your wish, my dear? Did it bring you the happiness you sought?" Lila's breath caught in her throat. I thought it did, but it was all a lie. They didn't love me, they loved this." She gestured to her flawless, radiant face, her perfect figure. "But it wasn't me." Old Marigold nodded, leaning on her twisted walking stick. "Beauty can be a gift, but also a trap, child. And now, you understand." "I don't want this anymore," Lila whispered, her voice trembling. "I want to go back. I want to be me again." The old woman's smile faded slightly, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Are you sure?"
You only have a few hours left.
When the sun sets tomorrow, the wish will end, and you will return to your true self.
I don't want to wait, Lila insisted, her voice firm. Please, take it back now. I don't want to be Jessie. I don't want to be someone else. Old Marigold leaned closer, her wrinkled fingers reaching out to gently touch Lila's cheek. You have learned a lesson few ever do, my child. Beauty is not the light that shines on your face. It is the light that shines in your heart. Lila's tears flowed freely now. But I was so cruel. I hurt people. I hurt Heather. I became just like them. Regret is the beginning of wisdom, old Marigold whispered. And forgiveness is the path to healing. Do you forgive yourself, Lila? Lila's chest tightened. I don't know. Then you are not yet ready, the woman said, her voice gentle. But you will be. Lila nodded, wiping her tears. Please, please make me Lila again. Old Marigold smiled, a warm, gentle smile. Close your eyes, child. Lila's eyes fluttered shut, and she felt a gentle warmth like a soft breeze against her skin. Her heart slowed, the tension in her chest easing, and then silence. Open your eyes, the old woman whispered. Lila did, and the girl staring back at her in the reflection of the shop window was familiar round cheeks, soft brown curls, and kind but weary eyes. It was her. It was Lila. She touched her face, a wave of relief and sorrow crashing over her. She was herself again. But there was no bitterness, no regret, only peace. Thank you, Lila whispered, turning to old Marigold. But the woman was already walking away, her form fading into the shadows. Wait, Lila called out. Will I ever see you again? The woman paused, her voice a faint whisper carried by the wind. Perhaps. But remember, child, the truest beauty is the kindness you share, the love you give, and the courage you hold. Lila stood there for a long moment, letting the silence wrap around her like a comforting blanket. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel afraid. The next morning, Lila walked through the halls of Riverwood Academy as herself. No perfect face, no mesmerizing gaze, just Lila. Some of the students glanced at her, recognition flickering in their eyes. A few whispered, some even giggled, but it didn't matter. Because Lila wasn't here to be admired, she was here to be herself. As she reached her locker, she saw Heather waiting for her, a hesitant smile on her face. Lila? Lila smiled back. Hey, Heather. I heard you didn't come to the pageant ceremony last night, Heather began, shifting nervously. Everyone was looking for you. I didn't belong there, Lila replied gently. Not like that. Heather's smile grew, a quiet understanding in her eyes. You're right. You belong right here, as you. Lila's smile widened. Thank you. Heather reached out, pulling Lila into a gentle hug. I'm glad you're back. They walked to class together, their laughter and quiet conversation drowning out the whispers around them. And as they settled into their seats, Ms. Carter walked in, her warm gaze sweeping over the class. Her eyes lingered on Lila, a faint smile crossing her face. Lila, Ms. Carter called, her voice gentle. Would you like to read today's passage? Lila's heart fluttered for a moment, but then she smiled. Yes, Ms. Carter. Her voice was steady, confident, carrying through the room with a quiet strength. And for once, she didn't feel the weight of their stares, because she didn't need their approval. After class, Lila met Heather outside, and they laughed, walking together to the small cafe down the street. They ordered hot chocolate, sharing stories and jokes, and Lila felt a warmth blooming in her chest. But as the sun began to set, she noticed a figure standing by the window, Daniel Harris, a quiet boy from her class, the one who always smiled shyly, but never spoke. Lila. Daniel's voice was soft, a slight blush coloring his cheeks. I
I've always admired you, not just now, but before. Lila's cheeks warmed, her heart fluttering. Really? Daniel nodded, a warm, gentle smile spreading across his face. You were always so kind, even when no one else was. That's why I like you. Lila's smile widened, her heart light as a feather. Would you like to join us? Daniel's smile grew, and he nodded, slipping into the seat beside her. The three of them laughed, talked, and shared stories until the sky turned a soft shade of twilight. And as the stars began to twinkle above, Lila Morgan felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Happiness. Not because of a perfect face or the admiration of others, but because she was herself, and that was enough. Lila Morgan walked through the halls of Riverwood Academy, but this time she wasn't hiding. Her head was held high, her gaze steady, and her soft smile warm and genuine. She was no longer Jessie, the flawless beauty who commanded attention. She was Lila, the real Lila. Some students still whispered as she passed. A few even smirked or tried to stifle their laughter, but those whispers were faint echoes now, powerless against the quiet confidence that had begun to blossom within her. Lila had walked these same halls in fear for so long, but now they felt like just another part of her world, a world she could choose to change. Heather Blake walked by her side, a gentle smile on her face. The two had become unlikely friends, bonded by shared mistakes and the courage to forgive. Where once they had been enemies, now they were allies. Two girls who had learned the hard way that cruelty was a mask and kindness was a shield. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Heather asked, her voice tinged with both worry and admiration. Lila nodded. "Yes. I have to." They reached the school's auditorium, where the weekly assembly was about to begin. Students filled the seats, chatting, laughing, some glancing curiously at the stage. At the front of the room, Miss Evelyn Carter stood with a warm, encouraging smile. Lila's heart pounded, but it wasn't from fear, it was from anticipation. She stepped onto the stage, her simple dress swaying gently, her soft curls falling naturally around her face. This was her moment, but not to show off, not to impress, to share the truth. As Miss Carter stepped forward, her voice echoed across the room. "Students, today we have a special presentation. Lila Morgan has something she would like to share with you." A hush fell over the room. Lila took a deep breath, her fingers gently gripping the edges of the microphone. The sea of faces stared back at her, curious, confused, some even amused, but none of that mattered. "My name is Lila Morgan," she began, her voice steady. "Some of you might not even know who I am, or maybe you do, but you don't recognize me anymore. That's because, for a little while, I wasn't me." The whispers began immediately, soft murmurs rippling through the crowd. Lila smiled, a calm, gentle smile. "Not long ago, I made a wish to be beautiful. And for a time, that wish came true. I became someone else, someone perfect, admired, even envied." Heather watched from the front row, her hands clasped tightly, her heart pounding with both pride and concern for her friend. "I thought beauty would make me happy," Lila continued. "I thought it would make the whispers stop, the laughter disappear. And for a while, it did. But what I didn't realize was that the beauty I wished for was a mask that hid who I really was." Lila's gaze swept over the audience, her voice growing stronger. "I hurt people. I lied. I became someone I didn't even recognize. I thought I was escaping my pain, but all I did was lose myself." Some of the students leaned forward, their expressions shifting from confusion to interest, even sympathy. "But then, someone helped me see the truth." Lila's smile softened, her gaze finding Heather. "I learned that beauty isn't about the way you look. It's about the kindness you share, the love you give, and the courage you show even when the world tries to tear you down." Silence fell over the room, a heavy, reflective silence. Lila's voice softened, but it carried to every corner. "I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. But I've learned that it's never too late to change, to be better, to be yourself." A faint, warm applause began, soft at first, but then growing. Miss Carter smiled, her eyes bright with pride. Lila stepped back, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and joy. As she walked off the stage, Heather was the first to greet her, wrapping her in a tight hug. "You were amazing," she whispered. Lila laughed, wiping a tear from her cheek. "Thank you for being my friend." But just as they turned to leave, a familiar voice called out, "Lila?" Lila looked up to see Daniel Harris standing there, a shy but warm smile on his face. His hands were tucked into his pockets, but his gaze never wavered. "Hey, Daniel," Lila greeted, her smile growing. "That was really brave," he stammered, his cheeks flushing slightly. I always knew you were amazing, not because of how you looked, but because of who you are." Lila's heart fluttered. "Thank you, Daniel. That means a lot. Would you maybe want to grab a milkshake after school?" Daniel asked, his voice a mix of hope and nervousness. Lila's smile widened, her cheeks warming. "I'd love that." As the three of them walked out together, Lila felt lighter than she had in years. The hallways seemed brighter, the whispers softer, the laughter friendlier. She didn't have to be perfect, she just had to be herself. That evening, Lila and Daniel sat across from each other at the small diner near the school. The jukebox played a soft, cheerful tune, and the warm glow of the setting sun painted the room in shades of gold. Daniel leaned forward, his smile warm. "So, tell me something you love, Lila." "Something that makes you happy." Lila thought for a moment, then laughed. "Poetry. I love poetry. I love how words can paint a picture, how they can touch your heart." Daniel's smile widened. "I'd love to hear one of your favorites sometime." Lila's heart fluttered. "I'd like that." They talked for hours, their laughter blending with the soft music, their voices filling the quiet corners of the diner. And for the first time, Lila didn't feel like she was trying to be someone else. She was simply Lila, the girl who loved poetry, who had made mistakes, who had learned to forgive and be forgiven. As they walked home, the stars twinkled above, a soft breeze brushing against Lila's cheeks. Daniel reached out, his fingers gently intertwining with hers. Lila's smile brightened, her heart light. "I'm glad you're you," Daniel whispered, his voice sincere. Lila squeezed his hand gently. "Me too." When she finally reached home, she stood by her bedroom window, staring at the starry sky. Her reflection stared back at her, not perfect, not flawless, but real. And for the first time, she loved the girl she saw. True beauty wasn't about the way she looked or the admiration of others. It was the kindness she showed, the love she gave, the courage she found within herself. Lila Morgan was enough, and she always had been. Lila Morgan's journey is a powerful reminder that true beauty is not defined by flawless features or the admiration of others, but by the kindness, integrity, and courage that shine from within. In a world that often judges by appearances, Lila's transformation reveals a profound truth. External beauty can be a gift, but it can also be a trap if it leads us away from who we truly are. Lila thought that becoming beautiful would bring her happiness, but instead, it left her feeling empty and lost. Only when she chose to let go of the mask and embrace her true self did she find peace, friendship, and love. Her story teaches us that our worth is not determined by how we look, but by how we treat others and how we see ourselves. For older audiences, Lila's journey is a gentle reminder that life's most meaningful rewards come from the heart, from forgiveness, understanding, and the courage to be authentic. As we grow older, we learn that the beauty that truly matters is the beauty of character, a beauty that only deepens with time,